4 Animal Kill Shelters. Group 6 Marlene Arellano, Anmol Cayley, Honor Hands, Marissa Naranjo, Natalia Ramirez, Animal Science 67, Animals and Society. October 28th, 2024.
Background history. Natalia Zarate. The whole concept of animal kill shelters became about in the mid to late 1800s. One of the first animal shelters came to be in 1869, which essentially provided a home for the animal. However, before any of this came to be, it was quite common for cities and/or towns to gather wandering animals, brutally murder them using tactics like immersing them in water and letting them drown. From the first ever animal shelter that was created, it was not necessarily a kill shelter, but over time, since the number of strays began to increase significantly, that's when they introduced euthanasia. Approximately 17 million animals were continuously dying annually in government-owned pounds as late as the middle of the 1980s.
Overpopulation of pets. Some may view the euthanization of animals, especially pets, to be immoral and should be seized at once. But if that were to happen and kill shelters were abolished, it would cause a multitude of different issues. Overpopulation of animals, primarily pets like cats and dogs, is a constant issue faced, and aren't many ways to deal with besides putting these animals in a shelter or adoption. However, with the rate of adoption being approximately 4.1 million shelter animals are adopted each year, approximately 6.3 million companion animals enter U.S. animal shelters nationwide every year. So the question still remains of how to deal with the rest of the 2 million animals that couldn't get adopted. The easiest way to deal with the overpopulation of these animals in the shelters is euthanization, as each year approximately 920,000 shelter animals are euthanized. These animals can be euthanized for a number of reasons, including old age, sickness, aggressive behavior, just couldn't get adopted, or for some undesirable attribute of the animal. This method of population control has helped reduce the amount of stray animals that end up on the streets and helped to reduce the issue of overcrowding in animal shelters and continues to be one of the best methods in combating this issue. In the image on the right, dogs are housed at the Harris County Animal Shelter, which is currently severely overcrowded.
Laws of euthanization. Natalia Zarate. Keep in mind that the euthanization of animals is completely legal to a certain extent. Animal euthanization is a common practice around the U.S., and it prevents overpopulation of unwanted pets in shelters. In recent years, more laws have been passed to help create a more humane way to euthanize these animals. An example has been posted below. Listed in the Texas Department of State Health Services, according to Health and Safety Code Chapter 821, injectable sodium pentobarbital is the only form of euthanasia that may be used on dogs and cats in animal shelters. Anyone except a veterinarian who euthanizes animals in an animal shelter must be trained in proper procedures. The Texas Department of State Health Services has developed a policy pertaining to mandatory euthanasia training to help clarify who needs to take this training. Most states have laws for animal euthanization, most giving strict guidelines on the animal's euthanization process, allowing professionals like licensed veterinarians or trained and certified technicians may perform euthanasia. In some states, euthanization is permitted by law enforcement officers, animal control agents, veterinarians, or other designated persons. In order to perform an emergency euthanization in the event it's needed, which is simply just shooting the animal.
Methods of euthanization. Marissa Naranjo. Euthanasia translates to good death, and in recent times, the methods of euthanasia has developed in such a way to meet that criteria. Guidelines have been made from the American Veterinary Medical Association in order to make the method as humane and painless as possible. As of now, the AVMA declared euthanasia through injection of sodium pentobarbital as the most humane method to euthanize an animal. In some cases, more extreme methods of euthanization can be applied, such as the usage gas chambers to euthanize animals under certain circumstances. However, this seems to be the most inhumane form of euthanization, as the AVMA guidelines also condemn the use of household chemicals, cleaning agents, disinfectants, or pesticides as unacceptable euthanasia agents, as well as hypothermia and drowning, ensuring that unwanted pets actually receive a good death.
Flaws with no-kill shelters. For context of this video, members of the Danville Family Vet are addressing the no-kill shelter movement, a movement designed to convert kill shelters into no-kill shelters. This video points out a huge flaw in their expectations, as explained in the video.
Saying it. Let's say that we're at A right now. The whole country is at A with a severe overpopulation crisis. Everybody wants to get to C where there's no euthanasia having to take place because there's no overpopulation. Right. People are forgetting to go through point B, and that is lowering the number of unwanted births and making sure there's no cruelty in society. So we've
In other terms, the video is pointing out that in order to convert to a no-kill shelter, the issue of overpopulation must be dealt with first.
Ethical aspects regarding to animal kill shelters. Marissa Naranjo. While it may seem unexpected, human euthanasia can be the most compassionate option for animals suffering from terminal illnesses, severe injuries, or irreversible behavioral issues. By prioritizing quality over quantity of life, shelters can prevent unnecessary suffering and allocate resources to rehabilitate and rehome adoptable animals. Controlled euthanasia helps manage overcrowding, reducing stress and disease transmission among shelter animals. Shelters have finite space, funds, and staff, making euthanasia a practical solution. Clear, humane methods ensure that euthanasia decisions are made with respect for animal welfare.
The Story of James and Arthur, Marlene Ariano. As stated before, many are going to argue that it is not ethically okay for animals to be killed. The sad truth is that the increasing numbers of animals who are actually being hurt and being safe and cared for is surprising. I ran into a story with a horse named Arthur and its owner, James, who had dementia and was in his old years. James wanted to have Arthur be euthanized, or perhaps send him to a slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse James wished to send Arthur was nearby, and it was known in being a humane shelter for horses. For them, slaughter was quick and pain-free. Owners were even allowed to watch, just to be there for the beloved horses in their last moments. The Story of James and Arthur, Part 2, Marlene Ariano. Unfortunately, before he could decide Arthur's end, he had to leave the farm and was not able to do as he wished with his horse due to his dementia worsening. Congress and state legislators during this time made slaughterhouses illegal in America, and he was not able to complete his wishes for his horse. Anyone may think that the horses that did not have homes would decrease, but instead it increased, making these horses' lives worse. Arthur was taken by local authorities and taken to a rescue farm that was not able to afford Arthur's necessities, causing for him to be auctioned off $200 to a horse kill buyer, in which they worked for the slaughterhouse in Canada and Mexico, which were known for the mistreatment of horses. Alongside Arthur, many other horses were given little water, food, and were mistreated. We can only imagine what Arthur's last moments were. None of this would have happened if these new laws were passed. There are many other animals who are supposedly in no-kill shelters safely, but the overconsumption of animals leads to a low fund, causing for worse to happen to them.
Summary by Mo Keller. In the mid to late 1800s, the animal shelters were established, offering homes for wandering animals. Before this, stray animals were often captured and killing used cruel methods like drowning. As the number of stray animals grew, shelters introduced euthanasia to manage overpopulation. By the 1980s, around 17 million were dying annually in government pounds. While many oppose animal euthanasia, it could lead to severe overpopulation issues. Each year, about 6.3 million animals enter U.S. shelters, but only 4.1 million are adopted, leaving million unadopted. Euthanasia helps control the shelter population with about 900,000 animals being euthanized annually for reasons like age, illness, aggression, or lack of adaptation. These methods prevent overcrowding and reduces the animal number of stray animals on the street. Continue. Animal euthanasia is legal and regulated, with laws ensuring it is performed humanely. The American Veterinary Medical Association, the AVMA, recommends sodium pentobarbital as the most humane method, while gas chambers are still used in some states. Strict guidelines are in place, ensuring only licensed professionals can perform this. Animals, while euthanasia is a composite option for terminal ill or aggression animals, it also helps shelters manage their limited resources. However, some argues that it is also unethical to accept to kill animals despite the growing number of animals suffering due to overcrowding. The story of author a horse whose owner wished to euthanize him to avoid suffering highlights the consequences of banning euthanasia or slaughterhouses. Author's life ended tragically after being sold to mistreating slaughterhouse in Canada, showing that good intentions can sometimes worsen the situations for animals.
References: